life, marriage, being single, conflict in marriage, conflict in relationships. We even talk about faith. This episode is hosted by Kenneth Bonner, Reggie Smith, and Jacqueline Wells. Well, welcome to the When We Talk podcast. This is Kenneth Bonner,
Reggie Smith,
and Jackie Wells. On today's show, we are going to be talking about dating. And so we want to post a topic out there for our listeners around, is it okay for non-Christians to date Christians and vice versa? So there was an article that we saw on Michael Baisden, and basically it was a guy that came out and just, shed his light on his reasoning behind not dating Christian women. So I'm just going to read a snippet of what he said and where he stands regarding this particular situation. He says, I don't date Christian women, at least not Christian women who profess to be a Christian at every opportunity. I don't date Christian women who mentions Jesus on their page countless times. And I don't date Christian women who don't believe in premarital sex. And if you are a Christian man who isn't prepared to fully live a truly Christian life, you shouldn't date Christian women either. That's heavy. Now I have my own words. I know my words may shock some of you, but that's my honesty, my truth, basically. I'm not a Christian man, and I don't live a Christian life, and I don't follow Christian rules. But most importantly, I don't pretend to be Christian to go next to Christian women. The lowest thing a man can do is pretend to have a relationship with God just for the purpose of getting close to women who take their God, Jesus, and religion seriously. I decided a long time ago that I would respect Christian women by not wasting their time. You see, there are many beautiful Christian women that approach me and several that I am attracted to. So that was a lot of information, in my opinion, behind his stance on dating Christian women. So I am just going to pose the question out there to the fellas and get you guys' take on it. And from his perspective of, if you're not really ready to live a Christian lifestyle, should you date a Christian woman? Should you date a Christian woman?
I don't disagree with that. I don't have any problems with that. I would love to see why anyone would have an issue with that. He's just being real. It's like if I'm a football player, you shouldn't want to have a relationship with a checker player. We don't have nothing in common. And so why waste each other's time? So I don't have a, I don't argue that point with him. I think he made a solid, valid point, because back in the day, they, according to his article, I can remember, the always thing was, go find you a good Christian girl in the church, for a plethora of different reasons. But come to find out, if this person is serious about what they're doing, or serious about their life, or serious about that life, and you're not, why waste their time? Don't waste their time. There's some other people out there who operate under the stuff that you're doing that might fit better with you. Now, if you're looking to find that person that can help you change your life because you're looking for a change and you don't know how to get there, and maybe you can probably link up with someone that can help show you the way, that can help you find some balance in that religion or in that belief, or in that God, then I don't think there's anything wrong with that as well. But just make sure that if you're doing it and you're being deceptive because you have a hidden motive or you have another agenda why you want a Christian relationship, then I think that's completely wrong.
I would have to agree with you, because I was thinking the same thing. We all go with the scripture that says, be ye not unequally yoked with unbelievers. And I think that he's taken that same approach when it comes to dating Christian women. Now, Reggie, you're right. I've heard that so many times. You need to find a Christian man. You need to find a Christian woman. But the thing about that is you could potentially be setting somebody else up for failure, because what if they find this Christian man or this Christian woman who's a new Christian or a Christian for a while, but still growing and learning the attributes of who they are in God. And, you send this person to date a Christian man or Christian woman, and now all of a sudden, the person that they're trying to date ain't living that life like they want to. And that could kind of throw the person off that's trying to date them. And on the other side of that, it could be a hindrance, because now all of a sudden you're dating somebody that's a Christian, knowing that your values and your lifestyle do not equal to the same values and lifestyle that this person has, now you're being a hindrance and causing them to stumble in their faith. You're causing them to make decisions or compromise from the standard of their belief to do things that are really not a part of what they believe. And I feel that in itself is wrong. So that post, I know many people may take it different ways, but I actually salute the guy for being honest, because there are so many people that always come into, I mean, when you get in a relationship, you have some kind of intentions, but how deep are those intentions and those motives? And to me, that should determine whether you make that decision or not. But I still don't think, I would agree with him. I don't think you should be dating somebody that, has a different religious belief or are Christian or non-Christian, unless there's some common ground in the relationship and you all have some other things that are compatible and you can coexist together with those differences.
Well, I kind of see it differently. I'm sorry. So, I mean, I agree. I understand that he's speaking his truth and he's standing in his own honesty on his approach to that. But one of the things, people forget is that even as Christians, we are not perfect people. We are still flawed in some different areas of our lives. And I think that with this type of situation, I think it just comes to, again, as we always talk about communication and having a clear understanding of what the expectation is up front and giving that opportunity for whoever that woman is or vice versa, that man is, because it could be the opposites. It could be a non-Christian woman interested in or not interested in dating Christian men. I just think it comes to the reality of having that conversation and getting to know the person and taking away the title of you're a Christian. Because at the end of the day, whenever you're seeking to be in relationship with somebody, you're wanting to know who that person is, getting to know them on a much deeper level. And regardless if you're ready or not for what you think they're trying to turn you into, eventually, if there's a soul connection there, you would be surprised where that might go. So, I mean, I get and I respect him for coming out and being honest and giving his truth behind that. But I just think that people put so many stipulations on making it seem like, oh, Christians are just a certain type of way. And granted, we are held to a higher standard based off of our beliefs and being rooted and grounded in the teachings of the Word of God. But at the end of the day, I just feel like sometimes people use it as a way to run away because they don't want to change in their lifestyle. And that's okay at the end of the day if that's what you choose to do. But I'm just thinking that you shouldn't hold them boundaries or hold people accountable because they're living the lifestyle that, that holds true values and you're not ready to be in that same space. That's just where I stand with it. But I'm not saying I disagree with his post. Again, that's his truth. I just think people put too many expectations on us as Christians when we are a flawed people. We don't do everything right every single day. We have days where we fall. We have days where we make mistakes. And a lot of times people forget that aspect of when they're looking at Christians, in my opinion.
Well, I look at it from this aspect is that if I'm coming off the streets or if I'm in another belief or whatever, and from the onset, like he stated, that every time you turn on her social media, it's Jesus, 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 God, 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 God. Sometimes anything can be overkill. Sometimes some things can be too much. And if I'm looking for someone, that could potentially throw me off. So from my perspective, I wouldn't enter into that if I know this is what you do. This is your history all day long. And I don't want to partake in that. I want to be, if I allow myself, I want to be brought along slowly. And I'll give you an example. I had a friend of mine years ago. Both of them actually were my friends. And, she was a kind of a hood girl, came off the street, got into church, began to build and form a relationship, with the Lord. Didn't quite understand it, because even though she was off the street, she wasn't of that same denomination, which is a whole nother topic in itself. But anyway, she married the other guy and, relationship started off great. But even in the onset of the relationship, every conversation everything they did, from even one time, there was a time where she said that she was taking a shower and he comes into the bathroom, he quoting Bible scriptures the whole time, even to the point to where they would get ready to make love. It was a Bible scripture before, it was some mention of it during, and even some mention of it afterwards, all day long. And it was like, I love him, but it's too much. And she made the statement, had I known he was like that, I probably wouldn't not have ventured into this relationship. It was just too much. Sometimes it can be overkill. Not to say you're not supposed to profess your religion or profess your belief or profess your God. There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it can be overkill. And according to what he's saying, I believe that, because I think, and if I could speak for you all, no, I'm not going to speak for you. I'll speak for myself. You see it all the time. Even in conversation of people that you work with, and they profess, and then next thing you know, 20 seconds later, they're cussing somebody else, so it don't add up. So if I'm a person coming off the street, and I'm seeing stuff like that, I'm like, I'm not ready for that. Now, are there some people that are just as gung-ho, that are looking for this type of relationship? Yeah, they could, what they say, Bible thump, they could talk God all day long. They love that. But the average person, when you see a caution light, you need to proceed with caution. You understand what I'm saying? If you see a red light, you stop. You see a green light, you go. So when you see the signs that don't line up with your core beliefs or something that you want to do, I wouldn't venture into it.
Well, I would say that one of the things I would say is that you can never be so heavenly minded that you're no earthly good.
Right.
And I get that sometimes we go to the extreme with our beliefs and faith, but you still should have these signs up front, because when you're talking about you're at the level of making love, are they married, or is it just premarital sex? Because
they were married.
Okay, so in marriage, so then there should have been signs all along. It shouldn't just be all of a sudden he's Jesus this, quoting that scripture, quoting that scripture. Those signs should have been there all along. And before you say I do, you have a choice. You know, when somebody proposes a question to you, you have a choice to tell them whether you're not ready or whatever the case. I think that people are afraid to express them true selves, whether they're ready for a situation or not ready for a situation, or whether they're just shouldn't enter into it. They're not talking about it or communicating and telling the truth about what they feel. Because I guarantee this far in a relationship, there had to be some things that happened prior to throw her off or turn her off. But you still go to the level of saying I do in the relationship, and now you're married. Now you want to bring all these issues up. You know, I think we talked about that on the show before about the communication. Now we way in a relationship. Now you having a problem with certain things because people are now saying stuff. You know, just be honest up front. You know, that's my opinion of it.
Let me just say this too, real quick too. I'm on the side with Ken on this one as well, because I just feel like I do agree with you too, Reggie. I'm just saying I think that it can be some overkill there, and I think that if it's in the place of if it's in the marriage space and it's overkill there needs to be a conversation, especially if the other person is not where the other spouse is at when it comes to them quoting scriptures at everything that they do at the dinner table, right, even in the bedroom, out in the shower. It has to be some level of conversation to where they are communicating and having the discussion on where she stands or where he stands about that topic. So again, I agree with Ken when he said that, you know, I think those signs may have been there. And, you know, what was the state of mind at the time when they were dating? Were you wanting to just be married for the sake of being married, to say, oh, I have a Christian man, knowing that you truly wasn't ready for that, or knowing that, you know, he was going to be reading the Bible to you while you sleep, when you wake up, when you shower, when you eat breakfast on your way to work? If you know what I'm saying? So were you just wanting the idea of having a Christian man, knowing that you really wasn't ready to fully commit yourself to the call that he was, the call on his life, basically? So again, I mean, I agree from two different perspectives on you guys' point. I think sometimes it can be overkill, and that conversation needs to happen within the midst of a marriage. And two, you knew what you were getting into when you said I do.
Well, on that, I have to disagree, for the simple fact is that they were not living together. They were not having sex. Okay, so therefore, how would she know any of this was going to happen in a relationship? Because they were not together like that. They had forged a relationship and they were dating. So a lot of this stuff that was going on was not happening because, one, they were not married. So therefore, she didn't see the rest of this stuff until they got into the confines of the relationship. And at the same time, my thing is that we all know that you don't throw everything out there during the onset of the relationship about who you are. Yeah, she knew he was a Christian. She knew he loved the Lord or whatever else like that. But being overzealous didn't step into play until afterwards. Just like with a lot of relationships, you really start to see the real people, the real person once after you say I do. So where there's some little signs, yeah, but there was those little signs were at that point to where I'm comfortable with it. Maybe this is how it's supposed to be. But then once they got married, and they're spending ample amount of time together, now you start to see the overkill, and those things that you were comfortable with were now making you uncomfortable because it was too much. So that's what I'm saying.
I still disagree with that. And the reason I say that is because how can you have a relationship with somebody and you don't know them? And I agree to the extent that some people don't reveal everything about themselves up front, and you won't discover those things until you spend more time with them. But I think that people have a false definition of what a Christian is. And I think that they go in with okay, well, yeah, maybe he loves God, or, he doesn't do all the extra that I'm now seeing in the marriage. Maybe she thought that the definition of a Christian wasn't that. And maybe that's how he lives his life. Or the other side of that is maybe after they got married and they made love, and maybe he just got happy and couldn't help but give God thanks through everything that he's doing, quote scriptures and all that. I'm just saying.
Every time?
I'm just saying, but on a just coming from a real point, I would just say that I think that, again, you have to know a person before you take that level. You have to know something deep down on the inside of you, that draws you to this person, versus just saying, okay, I like what I see on the surface and that's it. Because too many people are attracted to what's on the surface, but they don't go beneath the surface to really learn a person. They don't ask enough questions. They don't, if he was a Christian and she wasn't a Christian, if I was in that position, I would ask, okay, how often do you pray? I mean, what is this Christian life about? Because I would want clarity of what I'm getting myself into. And again, people show whatever they show way down the road, but I'm a person that I want to ask questions because I have to know. I don't want to just get into something and then all of a sudden, I made that mistake before, and get into something and I'm like, oh crap, I didn't even think this through. Now I put myself in a position that causes me to feel crazy. And I don't really know if I want to be with this person because all of a sudden they don't went Christian crazy. You know what I'm saying? So I just think he asks enough questions.
I don't think that no one's really thinking about that. None of us was thinking about those pertinent questions when we were in our early 20s. Who's thinking about that when you was getting married in your early 20s? Those are the type of things that we think about now in our 30s and our 40s because it makes sense. But when you're coming up and you're in your early 20s, you get ready to start a family. No one's thinking about those in-depth, futuristic questions. That it just doesn't jive with it, which is why all of us have made the mistakes we've had in previous relationship because we didn't take time to think it through, because everything was caught up in the emotional standpoint of it and the thought of being married, as Jackie said, or the thought of being in a relationship. So we, at that age, now if you're in your 30s, late 30s and 40s and you're making those mistakes now, then we might need to ask the real questions. But when you in the early 20s, like a lot of us were, we wasn't thinking about that stuff. It was just good to be with someone that said they loved you on a continual basis.
Yeah, that's true. I have to agree definitely from that standpoint of it. And I think too with this whole topic, it just comes with a person's state of mind and where they see themselves headed for their future or what it is that they want. But again, this whole topic on putting those titles of Christian, non-Christian, I just think that ultimately it shouldn't be lip service. A person, you should be able to attract someone based off of your character, based off of, who you are as a person. And eventually, I think that if it is the right person, regardless whether you Christian or not Christian, something is going to click and connect when you have that connection. I just honestly believe that. And whether I let you know up front or if you see Jesus all over my page or not, you'd be surprised how many people are converted through the lifestyle of their partners. You just never know. And I just think it's easier, like, like this young man was saying in his post, he's being upfront and honest. I'm staying away from Christians because I ain't about that lifestyle. If you ain't trying to have sex, then I'm not finna, he was basically upfront and honest with his viewpoint on where he's staying when it comes to the dating space. But, I still go back to, to how I feel about it. I just think that those titles of dating Christians need to be removed, and just allow yourself to get caught up in the moment and try to get to know the other person, and if that's your intentions, again, communication is key. Be upfront and honest, because that's where I am with it. Don't waste my time, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with me being Christian or not, but I need to know where your headspace is at. Are you ready for something real, or are you just trying to have a one night stand? Or what have you. So I just think that having that conversation up front and being in communication about your goals and your relationship goals and what you're trying to pursue, what you're trying to accomplish, will save a lot of heartache and pain in the long run, whether you're Christian or not.
I would agree, but I also feel like people wear masks really well when they get in relationships or when they're dating people, because a lot of people wear masks, and this could have been a situation to where I'm only going to let you see this side of me, but now that we're married, then I can reveal the true me. But going back to the guy's point, I understand why he said it. And it's a principle that does come out of the word. It's in 1 Corinthians 7. Kind of what Jackie was talking about, as far as if you're dating somebody that's a Christian, if you remove the labels and just date the person, how do you know that person can't win you over? So reading out of the Corinthians, it says, now I speak to the rest of you, though. Wait, give me 1 second. Okay, so it says, if a fellow believer has a wife who is not a believer and she is willing to continue living with him, he must not leave her. And if a believing woman has a husband who is not a believer and he is willing to continue living with her, she must not leave him. For the believing wife brings holiness to her marriage, and the believing husband brings holiness to his marriage. Otherwise, your children will not be holy, but now they are holy. So that's kind of touching on that point. This is in 1 Corinthians 7:12 through I want to say the 12 through 14. And then in the 15th verse, it says, but if the husband or wife who isn't a believer insists on leaving, let them go. In such cases, the believing husband or wife is no longer bound to the other, for God has called you to live in peace. That's kind of off the topic, but people that are in those situations, what do we tell them? When they like, okay, this person was this way and now it's too much. What do I do?
Are you talking about in the constitutes of marriage or just the relationship?
Just a relationship in general, not in marriage, because marriage is a whole nother level, but just in the constitute. So now I've been dating somebody for a while and we're deep into the relationship. We're getting ready to go to the next level, but I'm starting to see things that I don't like.
Then what do you do? You have that conversation. It's simple. I mean, it all depends on what it is that you're seeing that you don't like. I mean, again, it goes back to having the conversation and communicating with your partner on where you stand. Because at the end of the day, if you're saying nothing and you continue to go forth in a relationship and you unhappy, you cause that on yourself. Because I can see the signs based off of your behaviors, but if you're not in conversation with me for me to understand that you have some issues with how the relationship is moving and you're not saying anything, I'm going to keep going on with the way that I've been going on. So shame on you for not speaking up, is how I feel about it. But, I'm not saying leaving is the answer, but I think that if you allow yourself to be miserable in a relationship mentally, you are already gone. Have the conversation.
Ooh, Jenny.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I don't know.
I feel the passion.
Yeah, it was passion, and my microphone heating up all the way in Southern California. But let me say this. I haven't, nor have I ever was a person that was looking for someone to save me or to win me over. If you're coming into a relationship and you're looking for those things, you might be greatly disappointed. I think that when a person is coming to a relationship, and when they talk about from the biblical standpoint being equally yoked, you're looking for someone who shares the same common spiritual beliefs that you share, the same values, that guys are willing to take the same walk, the same spiritual journey with each other. Because my thing is, lions don't date elephants. You know what I'm saying? You want to be able to forge a relationship with someone who shares and has or even wants those same commonalities in the relationship. But if you're looking for someone to save you, that's how I kind of interpreted parts of that scripture, even there's so much to break down in that passage of scripture. I'm not looking for all that. But I also disagree, and I know we're not on this topic about that. If the parents, and if I'm wrong, that if the parents are not holy, then the kids won't be holy. I completely disagree with that. Completely disagree with that, because I've seen some unsaved or unbeliever husbands and wives, and their kids turn out to be Christians, or so I don't agree with that passage of scripture. Maybe that's something for another topic, but you want to be able to and also, I was never that type of person that wanted that type of woman. I just want a woman who has her own relationship with the Lord. You understand what I'm saying? Not because I have a relationship. You have a relationship with the Lord, and you're looking to build a stronger foundation, a stronger relationship, and hopefully find someone that you all can build together. But if I see that flashing, and I've always been like that, born and raised in the church, even sitting amongst those, I always was deterred, because I didn't want that even at an early age. Thinking about my future relationship, I never wanted that type of woman. Every time we meet or we talk, everything ain't got to be bless you. How you doing? I'm blessed and highly favored. No, miss me with that. That's not what I'm looking for. I can't stand that. Every time I see you, hey, how you doing, girl? I'm blessed and highly favored. I'm giving you the do signs. I got to go, because I don't want that in my relationship. So like you said, early signs. Those are early signs for me. When every time I call you, hey, where you at? I'm in YPWW meeting. I'm in So and Circle meeting on Wednesday. I'm in church from 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. on Sunday, and then I go back from 4 to 9. I don't want that. I've never wanted that. In fact, I had a lot of relationships that once I understood that that's what you was about. No disrespect. That's not what I'm looking for. So, like you said, Jackie and Kenneth, the same exact thing. There should be some signs, and because you should have your standards out there on Front Street. You know what I'm saying? This is what I want. This is what I don't want. And then the question is that when you get into it and you know that, then why are you having an issue with it? Now, knowing all of these things, and now you have your standards and what you're looking for on Front Street. Now, if you now enter into this relationship or enter into the marriage, knowing all these things, all these signs that are going on, and you do it, now you really don't have anything to say, because you knew this was something you didn't like. You knew this was something that just bothered you or worried you. And if you're thinking that it was going to change, because a lot of people enter into relationships thinking that, okay, I can deal with it, and maybe they might change, or maybe this might not last that long. So if you're entering into a relationship knowing that you've seen the flashing lights, the caution lights, the yellow lights, and you still enter into it, you really have nothing to say, because you knew better heading into the beginning of the relationship.
Wow.
Definitely.
Well,
I have to agree with all of that. I liked how you said earlier that you pretty much said what I was thinking. You didn't put a title on it. You said you weren't interested in Christian women from the get-go, but you are more interested in a woman that has her own personal relationship, that kind of have the same values that you have, and she has an awesome character. At the end of the day, I just think ultimately it shouldn't be about lip service. If you're telling me that you're a Christian and you're always shouting Jesus and it's not lining up in your behavior, then it's just lip service at the end of the day. So I just think that honestly, it comes with you being upfront and honest, at the onset of the relationship, letting people know, like, if you're trying to be with someone for purpose, if you guys have the same intentions, then continue to pursue down that road of being in a relationship. But again, if you're just not ready for what the other person is, if you're not on the same level, then just be honest and upfront and just have that conversation.
I would agree. And I think that people shouldn't wear their belief with their words. You should wear your beliefs with your life, which is basically what you all are saying. And what I mean by that is, yes, we know you're a Christian. You don't have to tell us every 5 minutes, I'm a Christian. And the only conversation you have is about what you do for church when you go to church or whatever the case. I think that could be a turnoff for a lot of people, which is why the man said, well, hey, I see this all on her page, and I see this out of her mouth constantly. And when I find that out, I don't want to date them. I want to move away from them. And that's because he has that perception of this is what Christian people do. They talk about church all the time and this, that, and the other, and they don't live a life outside of that. But we are all individuals. And like Reggie said earlier, you have to have your own personal relationship with God. And I think that's more attractive than you bragging about how much you do for the church and all that other stuff.
I agree.
Exactly. Because it can later on down the line, cause some issues. But like Jackie said earlier, you have to have that conversation. And if you're in the book and your lifestyle is up on the level of right before the book of Revelations, and I'm still stuck in Exodus, okay, then I want to catch up to where you are. You know what I'm saying? But give me the opportunity. But don't bash my head because I done went through the First Testament and just about all of the New Testament, and I'm not there yet. And then now you coming back and you bust me over the head with it. I don't want that. Give me time to grow, and let's grow together. But I don't want, like Kenneth just said, you shouldn't have to wear your spirituality or your beliefs or whatever like that on your sleeves. I want to see it in your actions, and I can agree with Michael Bazin, and we all have seen it. A lot of us have, and I could have been one of those as well, who we profess to be one thing, but with something else behind closed doors. And it's a great disappointment because you're looking for someone who because we've all been out in the world, so we know what the world standards bring, and we've associated ourselves with those people who operate outside of the will of God or outside of beliefs or have their own core beliefs. So we know, but to find someone who is trying to be right, trying to walk right, trying to talk right can be very refreshing. And oh, how disappointing, not when they make a mistake, but when they purposely and continuously fall outside of what they show with their lip service. It's greatly disappointing. You'd be like, dang, okay, I know we got issues and flaws, but that was a little extreme. How can you be A, B, and C and then the rest of the alphabet don't line up? It's very disappointing. So you can want that if you want, for people who like that, because I know a lot of people that's like that. I had a conversation with someone, this person was like, I don't want a woman if she ain't in church all day. All right, bro, that's you. And there's a lot of women who are in church all day. But for those people like Michael Bazin and myself and some other ones, when I see that, I never want it. I don't want that in a relationship. And the person on the outside should also want to find someone where we can grow together, we can build together. We'll have disagreements and arguments and might not find common ground. But at the same time, we're still on this journey together.
That's a mouthful. I would agree. I don't disagree with that. Man, I think we should have probably did a part 2 to this, but I don't know. There's a whole lot more to say.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, it's a lot to say, but at the end of the day, I respect the guy's feelings. I respect his desire to not want to enter into something, knowing that the success rate of that relationship is really low. So I don't disagree with it, and people may be offended by that, but I mean, what do you do?
I wasn't offended.
Exactly. We can't please everybody.
Right. Well, thank you again for tuning in to the When We Talk podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our own website, whenwetalk.net. Tune in to all the podcasts, catch up on the latest episodes. But until next time, keep your head up.
Keep God first.
And keep it moving.